It's 1980. I'm 4 years old. I'm the daughter of Iraqi scientists. Saddam Hussein is the brutal dictator of Iraq. And the senseless Iran-Iraq war is about to start and would kill over 1 million people. My parents are progressives, secular, left-wing pacifists. They believed in the country that Iraq could have been: diverse, tolerant, modern, and free. My parents saw and feared the rise of fascism in Iraq. It's like they could look ahead and see the country's slow and bloody spiral into anarchy. We came to the United States as immigrants. We were basically refugees in search of a peaceful and prosperous place for my brother and I to grow up, in search of the American dream. And at that age, I never remotely thought to dream an American dream, but all of a sudden, every day, I was lucky to wake up to America. I saw this country with the fresh eyes of a little girl, filled with so much excitement and fear, and so much hope. My mom taught English to recent immigrants, and my dad worked for General Motors as an engineer, designing custom metals for cars. His claim to fame was zinc, not lead. And together they provided a better life for their kids. They earned good salaries, benefits, pensions, and they sent 2 kids to Michigan's excellent public schools. For my family, the American dream became a reality. Let's rewind some 50 years to Flint, Michigan, to the birthplace of my father's General Motors, and to the birthplace of another American dream. It's 1936, and GM workers just took over and occupied a series of car plants in Flint. For 44 days, they held sit-down strikes, demanding better wages and working conditions. Management tried to starve them out, freeze them out, and beat them up. And even our Flint kids, our always heroic Flint kids, raised their voices, hoping for a chance at a better life. It took the personal intervention of the governor of Michigan and President Roosevelt to end the strike, and labor won. Their union, the UAW, was recognized, and for the first time, working people had access to the American dream: a middle-class life, living wages, healthcare, housing, great schools, and even a pension. This was called the Grand Bargain, and it was a great deal. I don't want to exaggerate, because Flint's prosperity was not shared equally by all its residents. The manufacturing jobs were segregated, so were the schools and the neighborhoods, and those plants spewed tons of toxins into the environment, poisoning everyone, but especially the poor and the brown. But even so, Flint was something special. Hailed as one of America's great industrial cities, a promised land in the Great Migration North and for immigrants all over the world. My GM dad, my teacher mom, my family directly benefited from the workers' victory, from that bargain that lifted working people into the middle class and into the American dream. But what followed in Flint was decades of disinvestment, unemployment, poverty, racism, decline of unions, violence, population loss, and almost every disparity you can think of. Flint is where our inequality problems, our injustice problems are most striking. Today, in Flint, the life expectancy is 15 years less than the life expectancy in a neighboring zip code. 15 years. This is no one's dream. The America that I woke up to today has changed a lot since I was a little girl. But some things haven't changed at all. People are still running to America. It is still the epitome of prosperity for the entire world, the richest country that ever was and ever has been. But there are two Americas. The America I was lucky to grow up in, and the America that I see every day in my clinic. And maybe I see that American dream more clearly than others. I see it with the eyes that are still fresh, even after so many years. But I have seen things you would never want to see. Things you run from, not towards. Things that would never be part of any nightmare, let alone a dream. And for too many people, this nightmare is taking place right outside our front doors. Meet Lily. She's a daughter of Flint. She just came in for her 4-year checkup. She can say her name, count to 10, catch a ball. She's gorgeous, strong, smart, and brave. Lily was born into a city that was almost bankrupt. Born into a city taken over by state-appointed emergency management. And that emergency manager's job was austerity, to save money, no matter what the cost. And they severed a half-a-century relationship with fresh, pre-treated Great Lakes water and started drawing water from the local Flint River. And that Flint River water wasn't being treated properly. It was missing an important ingredient called corrosion control, a no-brainer in the water engineering world. And the heroic people of Flint raised their voices, and our heroic kids raised their voices, and they raised their jugs of brown water. But this poor, predominantly minority city had lost democracy, and those voices were ignored. For 18 months, the people of Flint were told to relax, that nothing was wrong, while our children like Lily, were drinking contaminated water. Mind you, we were drinking contaminated water in a city that is literally in the middle of the Great Lakes, in the middle of the largest source of fresh water in the world. This corrosive, untreated water created a perfect storm for lead to leach out of our plumbing and into the bodies of our children. And we know what lead does. We've known what lead has done for centuries. It is a potent, irreversible neurotoxin. It impacts cognition and behavior, how we think and how we act. And we now know that even the smallest doses and the first increments of exposure can cause tremendous damage. There is no safe level of lead. And it's not just a Flint problem. Our kids in Flint, our kids in Detroit, our kids in Chicago, our kids in DC, our kids in Baltimore, our kids in Philadelphia, our country's most vulnerable children are already burdened with higher rates of lead exposure and every other toxic stress that threatens their future. It's an environmental and a social injustice, and in Flint, that injustice only widened. And my team and I found that the percentage of kids with elevated lead levels doubled after the water switch. And in the areas where the water lead levels were the highest, we saw an even greater increase in children's lead levels. And when we first stood up with the proof that this corrosive, untreated water was leaching lead into the bodies of our children, the state of Michigan tried to discredit me. But you don't mess around with kids. And you don't mess around with lead. And you don't mess around with pediatricians. Especially this one. As physicians, we have taken an oath to stand up as the healers and the protectors. We were fighting for the future that lives and grows inside our children, and this was not a fight we could lose, not on my watch. And I was scared, and at times I felt absolutely sick. But I also knew we were right. And we fought back with science, with hard facts and with evidence. And finally, the house of cards began to fall. And from that moment that we proved that lead was increasingly in the bodies of our children, our focus shifted to tomorrow. There is no magic pill for lead, but we needed to figure out how to best preserve the tomorrows of our children. And suddenly, my everyday as a pediatrician, holding one tiny hand in mine, turned to holding the hands of an entire population of children. And this begins our story of hope. We are working towards hope. We are writing prescriptions for hope. But I am far from thinking that it is enough to hope, and that is why I am so proud to work in Flint. It exemplifies how a city can heal and protect itself. Our hope is being forged with hard work and with sweat. And now we are working on a new dream to build a model public health program, to surround our kids with every evidence-based intervention to promote their development and to mitigate the impact of this exposure. With family support, home visiting, early literacy, universal preschool, school health, nutrition, and healthcare for all. It is investing in our kids, especially our youngest and our most vulnerable. Frederick Douglass said it best. He said it's easier to build strong children than to repair broken men. And in a city that used to build really strong cars, we are now building really strong kids. But to truly fix Flint, and Flint's everywhere, it will take rebuilding of that American dream. Because the most potent medication that we can prescribe is to lift our families out of poverty. And it is not just a labor issue, nor an economic issue. It is a public health issue. It is an American dream issue. My personal dream is to come back to this stage in 5, 10, 20 years and to share how we were able to proactively invest in our kids, to share how our investment lifted our children out of poverty, to share how our response helped begin a new grand bargain to rebuild the American dream, that American dream that was first born in Flint. And sometimes I joke that I was born an activist. Well, it's really not a joke. So I was born into a family that was already on the move, away from something, towards something better. Born into a life knowing that there was injustice in the world and knowing the need to always fight for justice. And that's what my babies in Flint are born into. And babies wherever things are bad and their families are desperate for something better. And when you are born into a situation stacked against you, like poverty, you are born a fighter. You are born an activist. Because every little thing, sometimes things as simple as a meal or clean water, can be a fight. And that American dream can seem so out of reach. But that dream is for everyone, not just a select few. And that dream is for the children of Flint and Detroit and Chicago and Baltimore. We owe it to them. And with the right tools and resources, it is within their reach. As physicians, as pediatricians, we know that children are resilient. They are growing and they are moving forward every day. But sometimes they need our voice and they need our strength to help them dream of a better tomorrow. And when we look at our kids like Lily, we see the way forward. Just a few months ago, teachers from a toddler classroom in Flint came to visit me in clinic, and they came to bring me a chandelier made out of water bottles. We have a lot of empty water bottles in Flint. And it was a gorgeous, multi-color chandelier, taller than me, which doesn't say much, but it was over 5 feet. It was taller than me. And it beautifully swayed in the wind, and it captured the light. And these kids, these toddlers, these 2-year-olds, made beauty out of tragedy. This chandelier now hangs in my clinic, and whenever I look at it, I smile. And whenever anyone looks at it, they smile. But more importantly, it serves as a daily reminder that our work in Flint is just beginning. But like our kids, we are also going to turn a tragedy into something beautiful. Thank you.